Hi, and welcome to another episode of Boozing with Boomers. I'm Dave, and I've been on a quest to learn how to make a great balanced cocktail, so please hit the subscribe button so we can go on this journey together. Today, we are going to learn how to make the Negroni, which is a classic cocktail that dates back to the mid-1940s, but like any good classic cocktail history lesson, there are discrepancies on when the first Negroni was made. The Boulevardier we made earlier in episode 28 has been called the whiskey version of the Negroni, but actually the Negroni is the gin version of the Boulevardier, since it wasn't invented until about 20 years after the Boulevardier, which was invented in 1927. The first mention we could find of the Negroni was actually from Orson Welles when he tried his first one in 1947. And he said, and I quote, "The bitters are excellent for your liver, the gin is bad, they balance each other. Like any good cocktail, it balances out the good and the bad, but the cocktails that we make here are always more good than bad." As far as hard evidence of when the first Negroni recipe was published, or so we could determine when it was first made, was from a guy named Gaz Finger-Stirring Regan. And yes, that's a real person, look him up, and clearly my kind of guy, who stated the first printed recipes he could find were in two 1955 publications, which is even later. So I'm going to stick by the story that the Negroni is the gin version of the Boulevardier, but they both are great cocktails depending on which base liquor you are more interested in. So what's also nice about this recipe, it's an equal parts recipe. So when you're having a bunch of people over, and again, depending, it's a stirred drink, depending on how many you need to make, all you need to remember is it's equal parts. So in this way, you can make as much as you can fit into one of your containers and stir it and then pour it out to everybody. It doesn't have to be perfectly 3 ounces, 1 ounce of each. But that's why I like certain cocktails that are equal parts, because it allows you play with the volume when you're making more than one drink. So today I will make 2 drinks, one for you and one for me to make sure it tastes proper. And we will start with Sweet Vermouth, then Compari, which is the bitter. So these are the bitters that Orson Welles was talking about, and I'm using Tanqueray gin. You could probably play with a lot of different gins, and I'd love to hear from you if you go through this. Just as you can tell by the size of this bottle, I have a lot of gin drinkers in my friends and family, so I never run out of Tanqueray, but there are several other gins you could try with this. Well, Sipsmith comes to mind as a really nice gin for this cocktail as well. So let's get started. As I said, it is 1 ounce. So the classic cocktail is 1 ounce, 1 ounce, 1 ounce. 1 ounce of the Sweet Vermouth. I happen to like Cinzano. It's a little more expensive than like Martini and Rossi, but not as expensive as the others. So it's a good in-between, but I think it goes well with a lot of cocktails. I think it has a lot of flavor that stands up especially to bitters. So we're using 1 ounce of Compari, which is a strong bitter with a beautiful color, and then 1 ounce of gin. Now, as I said, this is a stirred drink. And the key thing about stirred drinks is you're not injecting as much air, so it doesn't get frothy, but it has that nice, clear, oily to it. And if you remember from the earlier episodes, when you use citrus, we shake, but when you use all liquor like this is, you stir, and it's a much cleaner look. Make sure at the same time to put more than enough ice in there, because the ice is not only diluting a little bit, but it's also chilling. And the last thing we learned with COVID, which isn't quite over yet, is that if we're going to stir for 30 seconds, we can sing the ABC song twice very fast. So I'll be right back. A, B, C, D, E, F, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I said my ABCs, next time do it with me. I almost forgot how to say that. All right, and then, what I forgot is, so this is also one of those drinks that you can serve up in a rocks glass or a rocks glass with ice. And you can serve it up, by the way, in a coupe as well, because the coloring of this is really nice. I happen to have chilled a rocks glass, so I will be back post-haste. Ta-da. Okay. So what's nice about, if you look at this color, so it's a beautiful bright color. Almost forgot that I need one for the boomer so I can taste it properly. But I'm going to make sure my guest has a nice full drink. And then what we're going to do is the garnish is an orange. And if you remember with the orange peel, you don't want too much pith in the back. You cut a nice even peel, but at the same time, then we're going to bend from the outside, and you will see oils, which I know I can't pick up in my camera. And then I like to just lay the oils on the rim, so you're getting, let's see how I present that. And then same with the boomer. I guess I'll just put it in this side because this is a really big glass. All right, and now let's see how I did. Oh, and the other thing is I have never had a Negroni before. So this is my first try at drinking it. I just figured the recipe was easy enough. I didn't have to try. So let's see what happens. Wow. So the bitters clearly come through. They mix well with the juniper and the gin. What I find interesting is then the sweet vermouth kind of rounds out the whole thing. So this is a bitter cocktail with a lot of flavor in it. And I definitely can see putting this on ice as well. So I'm thinking when you're in the summertime, this is a great drink to put on the rocks and kind of sip down because it has enough strength of flavor to go through it. But as it gets a little bit colder, I would like this straight up. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Boozing with Boomers. If you did, please subscribe and hit the like button so we can go on this journey with Boozing with Boomers together. Thank you and cheers.